What is the most savage thing your teacher has ever done? This kid in the back of the class shot a paper ball and it would have landed in the trash can, but the teacher slapped it away and said, "Get that weak shit out of here." Has like 80 by the way. When I was in high school, a friend of mine dropped his wallet in class and found out that the money from his wallet was stolen. The kid, who we eventually realized stole it, was asking him what happened. "What are you looking for?" My friend told him that his money was stolen. Then he told the teacher. I figure most teachers would brush it off with a "nothing we can do about it" sort of thing. Wrong. Not this teacher. Mr. D was a short, kinda pudgy in a cute way sorta man. He had a voice that was not at all intimidating. In fact, nothing about him was. He stopped the class and said in a voice that he struggled to keep calm, "To the best of my memory, someone stole something in this class. This is what we are going to do. I'm gonna close the lights and leave the room. You are all going to sit in a circle with your backs facing each other. I will leave the room, and once I return, the money better be in the center of the circle. This is your last chance. No one will know, and no one will get in trouble. But if you don't do this, so help me God, it will be the worst mistake you'd have made. So I'll leave now. Remember, this is your one shot at redemption." The teacher left, and sure enough, the money was in the center of the floor. The change was never returned. I guess it made too much noise, but the bills were. As promised, no one got in trouble, and we resumed the day. That was some savage shit. College professor had a strict no cell phone rule. Well, his phone rang one day, and without skipping a beat, he picked it up, threw it against the wall, obliterating it, and went on with the lecture like nothing happened. My middle school science teacher had this game at the end of a unit where he'd ask us questions, and if we answered correctly he'd give us a piece of candy. One time this boy, who was not the brightest, answers correctly and the following occurs. Teacher: correct. What kind do you want? Boy: Smarties. Teacher tosses a pack of Smarties to the boy. Boy catches Smarties with a big smile. Smarties make you smarter. Teacher: PFFT. Well, you better eat a box of those, son. The class started roaring with laughter, but the teacher just carried on with the next question. I went to art school for illustration, and it was there that one of my professors uttered my favorite line. Generally we'd have people in class that weren't wonderful and would defend themselves in critique by saying something was a stylistic choice. My professor was classically trained all over the world and devoted his life to being a Renaissance level artist. So he was good at sculpting, painting, drawing, and had a wealth of knowledge of anatomy, form and perspective. He knew his shit, and one day he just did it and screamed at one of my classmates. Ineptitude is not a style. Now, it's not the most savage thing, but it cut him to the bone and remains with me to this day as the greatest thing to ever say to someone fucking up. Someone in my history class was swinging on his chair, so the teacher made him write a 2-page apology letter to the chair. He then had to read it out in front of the class while stroking the chair to make it feel better. One time in high school we had a lockdown drill, and my 70-year-old chemistry teacher thought it was just a drill. So instead of following lockdown procedure, she proceeded to continue on with class as if nothing was going on. 5 minutes into the lockdown, we see a bunch of cops holding assault rifles outside the windows, since she didn't even pull the blinds down. Shaking my head. A little after that, a cop then opened our class door and started screaming at our teacher, since there was an actual gunman running around. Ms. P, I hope you rot. She was the worst teacher I've ever had. I'm not surprised she did any of this. We had a history teacher who was a delight if you were on his good side, an unholy terror if you pissed him off. Once, he threw a book at a student's feet. The kid was sleeping. Kid fell asleep again, and teacher pounded both fists on the desk on either side of his head while screaming, "Wake up." He really didn't like one of the young women in the class. She cheated a lot, so when she excused herself to go to the bathroom, he locked the door and then told the class to ignore her. She stood and banged on the door for a solid 5 minutes until he went, "Oh, I didn't see you there," and let her back in. My high school teacher had a troublemaker kid He wrote a pass for him one day, sending him to a teacher across the school campus to get the roof access keys from him. He went, teacher didn't have them, sent him to another teacher back our way, so across the campus. So on, so on. There was no roof access key. The teachers would send troublemaker kids who go to the office like weekly but don't change, across campus all class long. Kid brought it up during a teacher meeting. Principal told every teacher who was in on it to stand up. Most of the teachers stood up. Can't punish everyone, I guess. My physics teacher was the one who started it though. He was so proud of himself. Math teacher was passing out graded exams. I asked him, hey Mr. 30th, do you ever judge people based on their test scores? He turns to me and says, maybe you would have gotten a better test score if you actually showed up to class sometime. I got an F- on the exam. Engineering class with a computer lab which we were working in at the time. Someone was playing games on the computer during an assignment, and my teacher walked past him, so he quickly switched his tabs to the page he was supposed to be on. The teacher asks the student what he was doing. He said nothing. Doing my assignment. She pulled out her driver's license and said, here's my license, what does it say? Then she screamed that I wasn't born yesterday. Ensuing laughter followed. One of my classmates to another, why are you learning German if you're Jewish? The teacher, who said that? The classmate, me. The teacher, oh, you're blonde. He'll forgive you for it. That's our art teacher for ya. In grade 8, there was a girl with way bigger fun bags than any other girl. She was late for class, so he made her do 100 jumping jacks in front of the class. At the time we all thought it was amazing. It took a couple years before the wait a second kicked in. Mr. Egglestone, you are a creepy fuck. Seminar, discussing a book, and someone notes that the subject matter is not very interesting. Student, Brian, responds that, but really, if you really focus on something and think hard about it, can't anything be interesting? Professor turns to him and says, Brian, no matter how hard I try, I can't seem to find you interesting. During maths class, some kid shouted mum to the teacher for some reason. So the teacher called his mom mid-lesson and forced the kid to come to the front of the class and apologize to the teacher's mom in front of everyone. Fucking legend. Teacher, the most expensive thing when you have a GF are the restaurants. Student, I don't care. I bring her to McDonald's. Teacher, and that's why you're single. College psychology teacher was always a bit of a loose cannon. One day he yelled at the whole class to shut up at the beginning of class, but this little Asian girl kept talking to her friend. He singled her out in a class of at least 150 students and said, excuse me, do you speak English? When she said yes, he responded with, well then shut the fuck up. The class was absolutely silent, and he then just started the lecture. Our teacher was talking about how people would draw penises and other bad shit on the test dividers and told us to not do it and report it if we saw anything inappropriate, obviously. Then he said that if we wanna look at our penises then he would give us a microscope